Okay, good morning. Working on some new sounds or a new patch in Zoia. So a little lo-fi exercise on the depths patch, I think, has come to as far as it's going to go. And being now that I have the aloe vera and the nocturne, I'm finding that I don't really want modulation prior to those two pedals because what happens is you start stacking too much modulation and you lose character of any one of those modulations. So this particular patch I'm calling SOS Machine, Sound on Sound Machine. I've just started it. I started it last night and I dialed it in a little bit this morning. I'll walk through it here in a moment because I need to do a little test recording. I'm experimenting with the diffuser modules, which take that sound on sound loop, and each time it repeats, it's going to diffuse it a little bit, almost like a reverb, which is kind of cool. But so this is not so much a lo-fi sound on sound patch. This is a little more of a hi-fi sound on sound patch. In fact, this thing is, if my vision suits me, is going to be a little more synthy sounding rather than tape sounding or lo-fi sounding. I find that tape emulations just are too harsh to me when it comes to the kind of what am I going for? What's my sound? That spacey kind of quiet intensity, maybe. Is that the way to put it? But in any case, let's walk through this patch a little bit. So right now, all I have on is my compression and my EQ. This is my PR5 clean capture on the Nano Cortex, which I'm absolutely in love with, by the way. Okay, so sound on sound machine. So I intend to add at least one more sound on sound loop to this, but right now it's just one 8-second loop. So on the control page, you have your same basic functions. You have your record, you have your play erase, and if you want to fade it out, if you want to do the Frippertronic style, you can use this button to fade out the loop as you play into it, if you like doing that quote-unquote constantly evolving thing. This is your basic ins and outs and a tap tempo, mono in, stereo out. Page 3 is the actual sound on sound loop. Now, other thing that I'm using in this patch that I didn't in the other is I had discrete left and right. So it wasn't necessarily stereo, it was just, I guess, dual mono. So there was a set of loopers and sound on sound loops on one side, a set of sound on sound loops on the other. Similar here, except that I'm using stereo VCAs with two separate delay lines. So there's still a left and a right delay line, but they're running through stereo VCAs. So you've got, the VCAs are only there to control it. So one of them will turn on so you can send the signal in the record head. The other one's play erase, and then the third VCA is for fading out. So very simple setup, by the way, to make a sound on sound loop on this thing. So page 3 here is the one that I'm experimenting with. So what I'm doing is you've got 4 diffusers here. Top 2 are the left side, bottom 2 are the right side. And with these diffuser modules, I'm not even going to try and speak to what they're trying to do, but in my little bit of research, that HM Jacques guy, forgive me, I don't know your name exactly, but his little tutorials are unbelievably helpful. It's hard to make a video of the Zoia, any one thing on the Zoia, without it being an hour long. So you really got to be patient if you need to learn while you're using it. So with the diffuser, you've got gain, you've got size, you've got samples, which is the modulation width, and then you've got the modulation rate. So basically what I'm finding is diffuser size is almost like a latency control. If you'll hear taps as the signal runs through it over and over again. So I'm keeping it at a small diffuser size. I'm keeping it at a large modulation width, so 499 samples tends to turn into more of a reverby sound. And then at the modulation rate, I haven't gotten that far with it yet, but what I'm doing right now is just a very slow modulation. The slowest modulation you can do in the first diffuser. The second diffuser is at just one little click up. I don't need to hear big old warbly tape type modulation. And then what I did on the right side is I made it slightly different, so the modulation rate in the first diffuser is a little higher than the modulation in the second diffuser. So, and then those are getting pushed back into the previous page, which is the sound on the sound loops themselves. Okay, and that's what we're going to listen for today when I start playing. So I did my typical automatically recording loopers on the left and the right, controlled by LFOs, as well as having a 4-step sequencer attached to the speed of the looper, tied to tap tempo, which is going to create your octaves and fifths, and it'll create its own kind of semi-generative notes to go along with whatever part of the sound on sound loop the loopers have captured. So you've got a left and you got a right. And then what I did this time, instead of just leaving it dry, is I sent the sound on sound loops through its own stereo bucket brigade delay, and I sent the loopers through its own bucket brigade delay, again tied to the same tap tempo as the other stuff. So I'm going to mute the mic here. We're going to make some noises. I don't know if it's going to turn into a jam, but so again, this is my dry tone. What I'll do is I'll start off with with just the Zoia, because there is a little delay on the output of those. But at some point I'm going to add in Olivera. This is basically I have the Olivera and the Nocturne with all the settings at noon right now, because I'll visit those once I have this patch where I want it. But this is with the Olivera on. Okay, and then Olivera off, Nocturne on. I really love the spring reverb on this thing, or at least it matches with Olivera real well. So nothing too fancy, and then this is both of them together. Okay, but they're off now. I'm going to mute the mic and add something in here, see what it sounds like. I'm going to add a couple transients in here, see what it does with the transient notes. Might have to try adding a third diffuser in that cascading part of the chain, see if I can smooth that out a little bit. So we're probably on the 7th, maybe 8th repeat there, and it's starting to get reverberant. Yeah, let's clean this up and add a third one into the cascade, because if it's functioning in a linear fashion, adding one more into the cascade would be a 50% increase in diffusion, which would almost cut the point at which it turns reverberant in half. That's at least my theory. Let's test that. One thing I've learned with the Zoia is save your progress as you go, because if you're pushing your own limits and you lose your work, it can be more than just starting over. You have to sometimes relearn, because I'm pushing it a little. I haven't ever done this with diffusers before. I had to break the connection for the left side here. That's why you're losing it. We'll start it over though. Okay, one other thing I was listening for there is the repeats on the delay. The bucket brigade delay is in the end of that. Maybe a little too many repeats there, because again, once I get the Oliver and the Nocturne on, that may be unnecessary. But so all the new connections are made. Let's save this, and I'm going to put a little more info in there, see what we get. All right, let's add a couple transients in here. Yeah, it turned reverberant almost right away. Okay, so now this is where, when you're developing something with the Zoia, you gotta commit to something. So this is just a single 8-second sound on sound loop with 2 loopers. Now the delays at the end are sucking up some processor, but what you're hearing now is about 60% peak processor. You run out of processor fast on the Zoia when you can execute any idea you have. It's a consideration how much processor you're using. I imagine any of these companies that develop pedals, it might be the biggest consideration is how they're going to use the processor power, rather than audio or achieving a certain concept. In the case of this, 3 was definitely better than 2. So that goes to say 4 is probably better than 3, right? So let's add a 4th one in, since I created a separate page for the left and right diffusers. Because I still don't have the Oliveira or Nocturne on, and this is really nice. Okay, let's clean that out and start something over. So it looked like it only bumped up the processor use by, I don't know, maybe 5% max. Instead of running into the mid to high 50s, I'm in the low to mid 60s, which is good. Because I kind of would like to have a second sound on sound loop in here. But that's pretty full. I don't know, maybe I won't. But let's see what we got. I'm going to start with the transient this time. Alright, so what I'm asking myself now, am I just making a reverb the hard way? Or is it something different? I've got room to do 5 diffusers in a row. It definitely diffused much quicker at 4 than it would, well, immeasurably quicker at 4 than it did at 3. I'm going to mute the mic here and turn on the Olivera and then the Nocturne and see how those add to it, or if it just muddies it up. Alright, turning the Nocturne and the Olivera off. So it definitely doesn't get in the way of my guitar. Hang on, let me try a little lead on here. This, the Nocturne and Olivera are still off. Actually, you know what? I'm going to turn them on. Just a side note, that is the best capture I've ever done with this Nano Cortex, is my Morgan PR5 in that dirty setting. If you're a Cortex user, I would definitely suggest you check it out. I think it turned out incredible. sounding just fine. The other thing, part of the reason I'm letting it run a little longer here is I want to see if it gradually builds into too much signal, but I can monitor that at multiple places. So on the input of the mixer, it's fine. On the back end of, which is what you're hearing, I can't hear it right now, but on the back end of my recording software, it looks like I'm hovering around 14 LUFS, 14 and a half, which is perfect. Little hot on the true peak, but that could be my voice also driving it. But let's just try 5. Why not, right? Okay, let's let that clear out. We've got 5 diffusers going with just some basic settings, and this is the part that really, this is why I call Zoia an ocean. Think about all of the different possible ways in which to, if you say we stick with 5 diffusers, think of all the different ways you could cascade each diffuser and its various parameters into each other. Like, you could literally spend years trying to develop voicings, which is why I'm just, let's turn off the Nocturne and Olivera here. You gotta just, for instance, on the Olivera and the Nocturne right now, I just have all the knobs at noon, just to kind of maybe minimize the variables. That's why I'm kind of just auditioning them in and out, because I don't want them to cloud my settings in the Zoia. Now, really more than anything, when I'm cascading like a whole bunch of stuff like this, I just want to make sure I'm not going to blow up my levels or overload something internally. That's where the distortion starts, and gain staging is probably more important than having that pedal you love, knowing how to gain stage. So I think that's more what I'm listening for right now, is that I'm not blowing anything up. But let's let this clear out here and we'll add some more info in there. Because as you can hear, it's turning into, is it reverb? I don't even know if I call it reverb, but it certainly gets smooth and creamy, which I kind of like as a pad. And if you're fading it, and we'll try that here before I'm done, nothing will have the opportunity to turn into that if it's fading out as you're playing. So that might be a cool thing to try out too. But here we go. Nocturne off, aloe vera off. 5 diffusers cascading on each side with slightly different modulation. So it becomes reverberant right away. The transients still take 3-4 repeats to kind of not distract your ear. That modulation kicks in real nice right away. It's not overt modulation, and I don't think that'll interfere with the aloe vera or the nocturne. And by the way, I do have another delay coming. I'm bringing in a Empress Polymoon, which I think it's the 4th one I've owned now, or the 3rd one. I keep getting rid of them thinking that I've got a better choice, but the way in which those are set up, it's hard to replicate. And I think a nice clean digital delay, or at least a delay that's got that potential, that has a smaller footprint, might go really nicely after the aloe vera, because I'm finding with the aloe vera, even though it does that long kind of soupy, I'm doing that with the Zoia already. I like the aloe vera kind of almost as a slap back kind of thing. But back to this, I'm going to add some more information in here. I'm intentionally making it a little busy here just so I can see if it overloads. Alright, so we're getting close to what I kind of envision. It's turning into other instruments, or at least you start to hear other instruments in there somewhere. You start to ask yourself, is there sampling in there or something? You know what I mean? That's what I like when effect kind of does its own thing a little bit that complements, what you're doing. Alright, maybe a little bit on the intense side here, like even if I did have enough processor to add a second sound on sound loop, oh my goodness, would I want to? But in any case, let's add in the aloe vera and the nocturne. I don't know. I think pretty good. Doesn't get all kind of detuny, when you're modulating stuff and you're regurgitating it through itself. Things can tend to get a little detuny. I don't like that personally. But seems all right. So I think I'm gonna kind of end my experimentation for the moment. Let me make sure I save this thing. All right, so Sound on Sound Machine diffuser testing complete. 5 is better than 4 is better than 3 is better than 2 is better than 1. Again, I put a little more information than I normally would in here, and I'm going to do a jam after I mute this mic here, so we'll see how it sounds without me going nuts. But and again, I'll have to stop, listen, consider what I might do. For instance, I've got it at 8 seconds now. I can do up to 16 seconds. Would a longer sound on sound loop be less busy, be less condensed sounding? That might be my next experiment. But right now, let's just see how it fits in my little motif here, which is getting the sound on sound loop going, adding a little rhythm into the trio, and then playing some leads over it. Let's just see what happens. So let me clean this out, mute the mic, and jam on out. Thanks for watching, by the way. This is the stuff I love to do. All right, so a bit of a long one, but like I said earlier, it's hard to do a video on anything you're doing on the Zoia without it being this long. Um, but I did want to kind of show my process of developing an effect uh, in my setting. Because again, you do really have complete control with the Zoia. And I love to learn new things and make mistakes for that matter. But this sounded like it worked pretty good. I tried to make it a little too busy. I tried to fit it in context. I think everything's sounded pretty good. My LUFS was a little soft, but that's across this entire recording. I should have reset it when I started my jam. I don't mind it being a little soft though, because that means it won't get compressed by YouTube or limited. So again, having said that, let's mute this mic and get out of here and see what it sounded like.